Hello everyone, my name is Richard Crutchley. I'm an associate with Tibbalds Planning and Urban Design. I was asked to look at the topic of town centres through the prism of our recent work in Gillingham Town Centre. It struck me in Gillingham that mainly through the public consultation stage and through face-to-face conversations with the people living there, that the people who live there were dependent on the town centre, not just for meeting their local shopping needs, but providing other services for the community. What was particularly striking was the number of older people who were compromised by a declining town centre that was losing services that could have provided linked trips and benefited their overall well-being. So I want to tell you about this project a bit. Ignore the writing on the right-hand side, I know it's far too small to see. So Gillingham's one of the Medway towns in North Kent. To the west, you've got Rochester and Chatham, which are more illustrious neighbours. They're older settlements with a higher degree of heritage, focused largely on the riverside locations that they have, and Strood and Rainham are also close by. Gillingham developed through the arrival of the railway and the overspill of the historic dockyards, but became associated with the army through the barracks, the training centre and the military cemetery. It has a localised catchment and function, but has suffered long-term decline through a lack of investment and through the development of opportunities around it, notably the Dockside Outlet Centre, an Asda, the university and Gillingham Business Park, which has a number of big box retail uses on it. So Gillingham Town Centre is at the half of the diagram, excuse my nerves. And the railway is the dotted line that goes through it. It's a barrier to movement, and the large area of green space is the Great Lines Heritage Park, which is a relic of the military and maritime past. It was like an exclusion zone that development couldn't go within, it had to jump over it, which is why Gillingham's located where it is. Gillingham is also the only one of the Medway towns that isn't on the main A2 road, so it's disadvantaged by being slightly off the main drag. So the purpose of the work, we were producing a master plan for the town centre. The work was to provide evidence for the local plan review and was to look at opportunities for development and to test their viability. Our study area is defined by the red line. It was focused on the High Street, which runs through there in the middle. And it included the library. The library's in the west. It included a church in the middle, the main High Street down here. But it excluded the railway station, which was here, a large Aldi, which actually faces away from the town centre, and it excluded the leisure centre, which is up here. So it was quite tightly defined, and we decided to look outside it. The High Street's mainly pedestrianised, and Jeffrey Street is the red line at the northern side, effectively operates as a bypass around the town centre. It's an essentially linear high street. It links the old part of Gillingham with the railway station. The larger retail units to the east, the smaller to the west. The occupiers of the larger units tend to be national retailers operating at the lower end of the market. The exception is Britton Farm, a large council-owned unit off the high street, but connected to it by a passageway, which has been occupied by Summerfield and Budgeons and the Co-op, but it's now vacant. It's also the council's only major land holding in the town centre. It's this one here. Some pictures of the environment in Gillingham for you, just to give you a picture of how it is. So the left-hand side, you can see sort of big box, poor shop frontages, but it has grain, it has some heritage, none of it's listed. It has some street trees as well. So quite a mixed environment, quite poor quality in many places, poor public realm, but it has these little pockets of opportunity where things are happening. I'll let you ponder on that for a minute. So turning to Gillingham's planning policy, the council's emerging planning policy suggested a town centre boundary very tightly around the main retail area, so that's the purple line. And it defined the primary shopping frontages in the green, so where the major units were, and the secondary shopping frontages in blue. So this area is wholly within our red study area. And the supporting text of the emerging plan acknowledges the changes occurring in town centres, dominated by the changes in retail, and sought views on this. However, the approach remains one that's focused on the preservation of the primary retail areas and limiting the opportunity of other uses within that area. One of the issues we found with Gillingham is the length of the high street. Along its length, different things are happening, and it's not all shopping. So to the east, the station acts as a gateway to the main core of shops, but there's also a strong relationship with the Aldi and the health centre, which is a new health centre just built to the south. Which actually aren't treated as part of the town centre. The health centre is in this area here, and it's linked over a bridge to the town centre and also to the station. Towards the centre, the retail core has a number of strong focal points, and to the east there are some interesting independent shops that are developing around, particularly around where the street trees are, and it's a bit more contained as an environment. But also just outside the town centre boundary, the library acts as a key community hub, and it's one of the most active within the Medway Council area. And students are also generating a demand for food and drink and an evening economy in the environment close to the leisure centre. And in the leisure centre, their presence is incentivised through price discounts for them. On Monday and Saturday, a market also operates through the high street, which makes it the busiest of the days in the centre. So I mentioned that the engagement and consultation was a key part of this. And what the engagement and consultation demonstrated was that the centre was serving a real local function for local people, and that people wanted to see it succeed. They had ideas as to what sort of shops they wanted, and some of them were quite ambitious and probably unrealistic, but there was a real genuine care for the town centre and its role within the community. But there were other factors that supported the town centre as well. It wasn't just all about shopping. So people travelled to central Gillingham for lots of reasons. These included the student use of the leisure centre, and students tend to arrive at the railway centre in Gillingham, so they're walking all the way through the high street and then north up to the university campus. So it's a key audience that Gillingham could really use. There's heavy use of library in the west by a wide range of people, particularly older people and parents of preschool children. The shoppers using the nearby Aldi, and a lot of the shoppers were using Aldi for the free parking and walking into the town centre to avoid the council's parking charges. There's community use of the health centre right in the centre of town, which also had a really nice play space and was attracting a number of people. And there's the food and drink offer by the older part of town, which had most of the older buildings. During the work, the council also proposed an employment use in the Britain Farm Mall, rather than looking for a retail use, which would have created around 200 jobs in the town centre. However, the dispersal of retail to locations outside of the centre was also leading some community uses and services to also disperse to other areas. So these uses were being lost from the town centre. So pharmacies, for instance, moving into supermarkets on the edge of the town. It meant that those who were less mobile were finding it difficult to meet their needs, particularly their health needs. And our response was to think about the town centre more widely. We took our study red line to be the new town centre and also extended it to each end, encompassing Aldi and the health centre in the east and up to the War Memorial on the western side towards the sports centre. We felt that the parts of the town centre could be targeted for specific uses, with food and drink in the far east, independent retail and start-up businesses, including creative businesses, where they currently seem to thrive, and create a circuit around the station with the health centre and the high street. Much of this could be linked together with better public realm, wayfinding and better entrances to the high street from the main drop-off points, which included buses on Jeffrey Street. The library is popular, but the whole area suffers from poor public realm. So this shows part of the master plan that we were developing. It shows the retail core expanding in the western end of the town centre, continuing towards Medway Park and the War Memorial. It'd be useful to nurture the west end of the high street, to get the food and drink in, and to provide those links to the town centre. I want to leave you with a summary of the main points from Gillingham, the things you can take away. Think about the town centre more broadly than retail, widening the boundary to make linkages between retail and non-retail, supporting non-retail assets, defining character areas and nurturing them through the planning process, thinking about a much broader demography, creating gun linkages and creating residential in the town centre. Thank you.